Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second workshop of the Sales AI Marathon. For those of you who might miss the first workshop, my name is Olivia Nilsson. I am CMO at Reply.io, and I'll be moderating this event. So, while everyone is joining, I just want to kickstart the discussion with a quick poll. So feel free to put your answers in the chat. And basically, the question is, what are your current challenges with AI? Let it be in sales, in growth, in marketing, whatever your role is. So just put your answers in chat, and this will be very helpful for us to probably provide some additional information for you to help adopt AI faster. So for the challenges that probably come into my mind are, well, let's say you are lacking time to actually try AI and the tools that have AI and test it out and see what actually works for you. Or the challenge might be, let's say you have a solid tech stack and there is difficulty to implement AI into the process that is already set up. So feel free to put your answer in chat, and my team actually put the question here. Yeah, so it's kind of very interesting. Hello, Andreas, sales operations. Marcus, no AI challenges, trying to find the right tool for cold outreach and appointment booking. That's amazing. Okay, thanks for sharing. Scaling a more personal email outreach strategy. Fantastic. I think you will receive the answer during today's workshop, but anyway, feel free to post your questions during the event so we could address them in the best way possible. Finding the right people with accurate email. Okay. I'm not sure if we'll be covering this topic, but we'll definitely can find something for you, like additional information, and we'll. By the way, everything additional will be posting into the LinkedIn group, a safe place that we created for the purpose of the Sales AI Marathon for you to, well, discuss your challenges, to share experience, share fails probably, and network. So please join LinkedIn group Sales AI Marathon. My team just posted the link to the group in the chat. Join that. It's this place is created just for you. Daniel, how to use AI across the entire tech stack? Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think we definitely need to address this one during the workshop. Understand how to leverage AI so that it's not just a numbers game, but making outreach better. Great question, Andreas. Yeah, I think it also will be covered today. Okay, so another thing just to remind you before we go to the actual workshop, please share your feedback on social media regarding the Sales AI Marathon. Tag reply, use Sales AI Marathon hashtag, and at the end of the event, so actually at the end of all the workshops in the marathon, we will be drawing Amazon gift cards. So please stay active. And also for today's workshop, I encourage you to stay engaged and post your questions in the chat, because at the end of the event, we will pick up the best question and the winner will receive branded gifts. So today's topic is AI for sales engagement, how to create relevant outreach at scale. And today we will talk about how to use AI to create effective engagement messages and effective campaigns. Well, starting from LinkedIn connections or cold outreach messages, emails, we'll cover that, along with proven tools to help you do this job. And today's speaker, I'm super excited to invite Thibaut Souris, CEO and founder at Sales Labs, co-host at the B2B Sales podcast. Thibaut, please take it from here.
Yeah, thanks, Olivia, for having me, inviting me over. So everyone, what you can do is, that's always the stuff. So think about the question you want to ask, and take some time to write a really good question, because as Olivia said, I'm going to be selecting the best question, in my opinion. So to be fair, a really good question is a question where if you ask it, you can't really find the answer on Google. Or if it's just you have a way too obvious answer, it's obviously not a great question. So thinking something that makes us think, and I'll pick it at the end. What I'm going to do is also share my LinkedIn profile, on the post. And if you can just, in the comments, tell me if you are able to hear and see me, that would be great. So we can get an idea of that. Trying to share this here. It doesn't work. No big problem, actually. I'll share it inside of the private chat, and the team at Reply will share it with you. Anyway, so what I'll do, I'll just go and start with sharing my screen so we get an idea of what we're going to be working together. And here we go. So you should be able to see the whole screen. If you got an issue, if you're not able to see it, just tell it in the comments and ping me, and I'll be able to help you. So as discussed, we're going to focus today on AI for sales engagement, and specifically how to craft relevant outreach at scale. So I'll tell you a bit more about me and why I'm here. So my name's Thibaut Suris. I'm a French guy, born in Switzerland, and I've been in sales since I'm 15 years old, when I started selling airplane cleaning services at the local airfield in Lausanne. And that's when I really discovered I was able to sell something, and I really liked it. So I've been doing it forever since then. And one of my big and first accomplishments in sales was to grow the French market for a company called Applause from 0 to 2.5 million of recurring revenue in 2.5 years, and 0 to 10 people in the team. And what I did, the last job I ever had was a really cool job in a really cool startup, but I left it after 5 months to do what I'm doing right now. And it's been 6 years since I stopped being employed and I started working for me. So what I do now is I train and coach tech sales teams to book meetings and close bigger deals faster. As Olivia said, I'm the co-host of the B2B Sales Podcast. I have a Tactical Selling, which is a newsletter with 5,500 subscribers. I'm going to share the link with that at the end also, and over 35,000 followers on LinkedIn. And really what I do is I focus on experimenting with tools and tactics, and I love to document the outcomes on LinkedIn. And by the way, I passed 35,000 followers today, so it's a pretty good day for me. Let me just check if we get everything here. So yeah, and now in the comments, please tell me if you're able to see or hear my screen. See my screen. And basically, we're going to keep going. So the approach for this workshop today, I want to make it really tactical. So we're going to learn 3 things. The first one will be how you build connection requests with AI. Then we're going to learn how to craft messages with AI. And then I'm going to share some AI tools and how you can use all of this knowledge and these things that you've learned about AI inside of Reply. They have a pretty cool feature where you can use ChatGPT, but integrated directly inside of Reply. So it's pretty cool. You see it's working really well. And the way we work is short theoretical content. And there's a Notion worksheet that I'm going to share after the workshop. So let me just go and find that for you. You'll see how it looks like. But this is the worksheet that we're going to have. I'm going to send it over to everyone basically at the end of the workshop. And this is something where you're going to have some examples on how you build connection requests. And then you're going to be able to actually fill in the blanks and use some frameworks that I'm sharing with you. So you have connection request frameworks, messaging frameworks, and different kind of resources you can share in that. And really, I'm going to send that over. And the goal here will be to work on the like Notion worksheet after the workshop, so you make sure that you apply all the learnings. Okay, good. All is fine, so pretty, that's good. I'm just checking that everyone is seeing everything we're seeing here. What's really important is that everything I'm going to say here today is completely useless if you're not actually doing the full course or the full workshop and then executing it. So that's really important here, to take everything I'm talking about today and really applying and trying to do that. So basically what we're going to focus on is first connection request. But before we do that, what I want to talk about is what's going to be the main tool or the main infrastructure we're going to use, and that's ChatGPT. The way and why we're doing this is because ChatGPT is, for me, like the infrastructure of AI. So specifically around connection requests, around writing written content, that's what's really important here. is in the tools, the different AI tools that you're going to meet around sales, for prospect research, for prospecting, for messaging. You're going to see that most of them are using ChatGPT. And what they're going to do is they're going to request you to be able to prompt to actually talk to the AI. And if you don't really know how to do that, it's not going to work well. So I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by talking with an AI. So here it's reply.io, and like the organizer of this event. And here they have a thing that is create a draft with Jason AI, which is the name of the AI. And here you can ask Jason to do plenty of things. But if you don't really narrow, and if you don't know how to communicate with it, the results you're going to get are going to be from ChatGPT, and they're going to have like a layer of training that Reply is providing. But if you don't really go and have a really good structure for prompting, it's going to be a bit challenging to have a really good message that you can use and send directly. So that's what we're going to cover today. So first thing, we're going to talk about connection requests on LinkedIn. So the idea here of your connection request when you're on LinkedIn is to become a first-degree connection with prospects on LinkedIn. You want to do that because when you're a first-degree connection, you can use a whole range of media, meaning you can send videos, you can send LinkedIn voice notes, you can send text, direct messages, plenty of different things, instead of using what we call in-mails, which are paid messages you can send to prospects without being connected with them. And the idea is, if your connection request is not optimized, if you don't have a good message to send in a connection request, you won't get it accepted, and you won't be able to become a first-degree connection, and you'll be able to rely only on email or cold calling, and that's really missing a big opportunity to connect with your prospects. So one simple rule in connection requests: if you don't have anything relevant to mention, don't write anything. Meaning that when you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, so if I go, for example, here on LinkedIn, I'm trying to connect with someone. Let me find that. I don't know. Yeah, no, Sonia. Obviously, I know everyone here, but let's go in the different people here. So, for example, Royal here. I don't know Royal. If I'm connecting here, I can click on more and connect. There's going to be a note I can add there. And if I don't say anything relevant, and if it's, hey, hope, this email finds you well, or I'd like to connect, the chances of getting the invitation accepted are really low. So really the thing here is, if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything. But the rule, whenever you have something that's really relevant, so you found a very simple framework, you can really mention that. And there's two, trigger, there's two frameworks I love using, is trigger plus question and trigger, teaser, call to action. So the first one, trigger plus question, is a problem-oriented piece of information, a like, a comment, an event, like someone attending an event or profile view, and then a question related to the trigger. And I'm telling you all about this because this is what we're going to train the AI to do. So we're going to show ChatGPT how to structure a connection request with a trigger and a question, and then it's going to generate that for us. So for example, we have an example here. He's John. Notice you also like Charlotte's post about boring hybrid events. Question: what do you think of the solution she proposed? That's a good way to start a conversation with a prospect. However, I love this one more because it's a bit more intriguing. So you have the same thing, a trigger, a teaser, which is an intriguing piece of information to solve a specific problem, and then a simple question to start a conversation. An example would be, John, notice you also like Charlotte's post about boring hybrid events. If you're interested, I have built a 5-step checklist on how to prevent boring webinar participants to death. Are you interested? So this is a really good way to start a conversation with a prospect. And this is important to understand that these triggers are really useful because you want to train ChatGPT on how to do that. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do it with our resource guide. So if we go here in the resource guide, we have a connection request framework. So what I want to do here is, for example, go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to be able to take this thing here and ask ChatGPT to come up with my own problems. So here, for example, I'll go here, up, go to ChatGPT. And by the way, I use the GPT-4 because I'm a Plus user, but you can use GPT 3.5, which is free. So there's no problem here. And by the way, now it looks like, yeah, no, you don't have the plugins, but basically that's what you're doing. So you can do here, act like a connection request, LinkedIn connection request. Expert. And connection request or connection for each the following framework. So here I need a bit of formatting. Check trigger question. By the way, the formatting is not that important. I just want to make sure that it's clear for everyone. That's one of the beauty of ChatGPT, is that you don't really need to format things properly. It's going to understand still. Here we go. Here's an example. Now, here are the 3 questions or problems. Okay, so that's an example that I just came up on the fly here. What I'm doing here is the way you're doing this prompt. That's an example of how you can do a good prompt with ChatGPT. Is you're gonna ask it to act like a specific expert, so a LinkedIn connection request expert. I don't know if there's such thing, but that really helps give them a bit of framework. And then you ask them a really specific thing. So build a connection request for each problem listed below with the following framework. And so here I'm teaching it what's the framework, so what are the elements of the framework, and then what are some example. And so here are my 3 problems. And now I'm just going to ask it. And here you have what's going to be, ChatGPT here. So it's going to give you, and the interesting thing is that it's going to generate each time something a bit different or a different structure, but it gives you like a really good example of how you can use this specific trigger and have this or this specific framework and have the message you want. So John, so your comment on the post is comment, blah blah blah. Have you found any particular strategies that to help boost engagement in your outreach? And so here, that's a really good way to show it an example and then get some really interesting stuff based on your problems. So here, the personalization elements are all the problems here. And so that gives you an idea of how you can do a connection request. Okay. So again, if you have any questions, just go ahead, ask them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. So that's our first step, is really about connection requests. But what's the most important for me is once you have this connection request, you can go and talk about messaging. And by the way, I'm going to show you after how you insert the messaging inside the reply. But typically what you want to do is to build a series of creative and relevant touch points with your messages. And it's important because it's going to get your message seen or heard and start as many conversations as possible. And so here, I'm going to show you a bunch of really good frameworks that work really well. So we're going to go again in this resource guide, which you're going to have access to right after. And when you want to build your asynchronous touch point, so any message you're sending after a connection request can be a LinkedIn message, can be an email, can be a voice note. So basically, you want to find what you're going to write or the script of what you're going to say. A really good way to do that is first to identify what is a good framework you want to use. So, for example, I love the jobs to be done. So here we have memory, tool, confirm, teaser. So it's a past topic of a conversation, a tool or resource related to the conversation, a question to confirm if it's still a priority, a sentence to get the prospect intrigued about the tool. So here an example would be, Mary, last time we spoke, new employee churn was an issue. I stumbled on a checklist to disqualify bad candidates and immediately thought of you. Are you still working on reducing new employee churn? If so, just hit reply and I'll share the resource with you. So what you want to do here is go and train ChatGPT on the same type of thing here. So we'll take an example here. That's our mega prompt. So I'm just going to copy paste that up. You go here in ChatGPT, a new prompt. And here we go. So I'm going to detail that up here. So I'd like to build a 3 touchpoint advanced sequence in order to get a prospect to reply to my prospecting. I use the following framework for each message: question, teaser, call to action, PS, which is another framework I have. So here I detail what's the framework, what's in each element. Then I show an example for, the first symptom I listed. So question, teaser, CTA, PS, that's basically related to like another symptom. And now here I'm listing all the problems, the typical symptoms of problems that typically help. So high turnover rates among employees, difficulty finding qualified candidates, or competitive job market. And here we have some examples. So 3 touch points, that I can use based on this framework, but with my own problems. So symptom, high turnover, Jake, how are you ensuring the preservation of your team's institutional knowledge, blah, blah, blah. I have an innovative guide on the team retention and knowledge preservation. It's made a difference for several teams. Would you like a glimpse? And so here it's giving me some really cool stuff. So obviously the PS is something that you use to create some personal connection with the prospect. So here you may have to change that based on what the prospect is doing, or what you found about them. But that gives you a very good example of how you can use these messages to start conversation with your prospects. Another thing you can do, and I found that today, is instead of going and trying to show it what a good template is, you can find a very good message, something you really like on the internet, and ask it to templatize that thing. So I'm going to show you what I've done. That's something I've done today. If it's loading, here we go. So here it's a connection request I really liked here. And what I'm asking to do is to take this thing: George, so you recently landed on my profile. Would you be opposed to putting OpenBox in front of my 40K audience? So here I'm going to ask ChatGPT to take this and templatize it. So act like an experienced outbound prospecting message template creator. I want to turn a leading connection request that worked very well into a template that I can reuse to send connection requests to all types of prospects. Here's the content. So George, so you recently landed on my profile. Would you be opposed, blah, blah, blah. And so here it's giving me a very good indication of my template. So first name, notice recently view my profile, your product, service, brand, your audience size. So always personalize the message, and it's giving you really specific instructions. So that's a really good way to take something that works extremely well. So if you receive a good connection request, if you see a very good message, you can use that to start conversation, or to kind of you can templatize it. So you show ChatGPT what it looks like and ask it to come back with a really specific template and something you can use at scale with your own problems. So here there's always these different things you can do. So it's always about finding something good, feeding into ChatGPT so it kind of templatize it, and then training it on a specific template. So is it like what you're doing, the specific an example, and then showing it what are the specific messages or the specific points and problems you want to mention, and then you're going to be able to get some really good outcomes here. Okay, so again, questions that you can share over here. What I want to share now, I want to talk really quickly about some tools that I found really useful, and really walk you through how we would do that inside of Reply. So let's go back to our slideshow. So what I found is there's a bunch of tools, and I'm going to show you exactly, what is interesting here. So for brainstorming, for pretty much all the different things, I really love using ChatGPT because it's, as I said, the infrastructure of how you use AI for prospecting. So we don't really use Midjourney, which is a tool to create images and pictures. We mostly use ChatGPT because it's really about text. It's like something you can communicate with, and it's going to come back to you in text. So that's really interesting for writing messages, connection requests, for writing scripts of cold calls, for example. For brainstorming, I really love using it because you're able to take, for example, a LinkedIn profile, extract this LinkedIn profile on a PDF, feed it to ChatGPT, and find some personalization elements. And so you can also brainstorm ideas. For example, if you want to find a new job, you can say, okay, act like a job coach for SDRs, and tell me a bit more about, how I would build a 30-day plan when I'm starting as a new SDR. And so what it's going to do is create some ideas, or maybe rearrange your thoughts. And that's a really good brainstorming tool. Another tool I really love for prospect research is Human Linker, which is a tool from a French guy I know. And this is really interesting. I can show you exactly why. I go here and let's find Olivia, for example, the example here. I go here and I click on this small extension. Why is it showing me that? Yeah, here we go. I can run a contact analysis, and this is using AI to find, based on the profile of Olivia, what's her personality. So initiator, and it tells me a bit more about what Olivia tends to do. That's using a DISC model, which is an interesting model to, like do a psychological profile of people, behavioral components. And here, that's really something that's interesting. It shows what Olivia naturally tends to do, what Olivia can be stressed by. And basically, when I want to do a call or send an email, organize a meeting, what should I do? What should be my communication style? And that's a really interesting tool you can try. So try Human Linker. That's really good for, prospect research. Writing, Notion is amazing. For example, I can show you on Notion. So here, that's my Notion. Here, I could go and ask it to go and to improve writing. So I'm replacing here, hey, it seems like you have experience running going now, blah, blah, blah. So it's improving it a bit, but I can say, okay, now I want to make it change the tone. So maybe more friendly. So that's interesting too. Can replace the section. So Notion for me is one of the tools that integrates the best, like ChatGPT into its writing. So you can use that for different kind of connection requests. But one tool I want to show you is obviously the reply.io tool. So here, an example of the sequence. So I ran a sequence yesterday. I did an example here. So inbox, let me build a new one actually. So I click on the sequence. So if you go inside of the reply tool, you click on new sequence from Magic. And so here, I'm going to click on JSON AI, and it's going to, basically that's going to be where I'm going to insert my prompt. So another thing I can do is instead of saying, like do X, Y, Z, I'm going to take the example here I have and do exactly the same. So here, I'd like to build blah, 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 everything we talked about. And so here, what's really interesting is that it's inserting inside of reply.io this specific prompt, and then it's adding the layer of knowledge that training that Reply has added to this ChatGPT, and then it's like taking these two things here. So that can be an example. I wanted to start to discuss common challenges that many companies face, high turnover rate among employees. This issue can result in a loss of institutional knowledge and decreased productivity. To address this, I have a question for you. Are you currently preventing high turnover among your employees? If you're interested, I have a short 3-step playbook on disqualifying bad candidates. Sounds interesting, blah, blah, blah. So here, that's interesting. I can try and regenerate that, for example. And we're going to have a different version. And what's pretty interesting is that here, for example, it's showing me like the elements of framework. So question, CTA. So I can fix grammar, for example. So here, I go here. I find it's too long. So I want to make it more straightforward. And I can fix grammar. Try with the formality, friendly. So that's all different things I can do here. And I'm going to show you another typical prompt we could use, which is going to help you again. So let's try a new magic sequence. Check. So act like Reply as a Reply SDR or SDR, IO SDR, reach out to sales leader and B2B tech companies in the USA to invite them to Reply's Sales Development Excellence Conference and suggest to meet. Time and date of the event, October 26th. Don't use I hope this email finds you well. Change formality to friendly. Change tone of voice to confident. Make text shorter. Change tone of voice to straightforward. So we go here. Okay, and then we have an idea here on how we can invite people to event. So here I'm reformatting it. And then what's interesting is I can go here and create the sequence based on all of these. So what it's going to do is take my messages, take the first message and then create a sequence. So I'm going to have this step 1, which is going to be an email. And what's really cool here, I can also check, okay, maybe subject length is too long. Word count is good. Question count is not that great. Reading level is maybe a bit tough. So I got suggestions of what I can do about that. And here, what I'm going to do is change that, for example, then I fit inside of the, the kind of worksheet, or sorry, like scorecard, to make sure that it works well. Save here. So you can do your small tweaks. And then typically you'd have, a message. Okay, so that's an example here. I can say, what the magic sequence is doing is kind of suggesting you some ideas, but you can always try to do different things. And here, for example, I can do dots. That would be an example of how we change it. And next, we're going to do something that's pretty cool. So I can create a list of prospects based on my ICP. So I can go, for example, and I want to find people at Coca-Cola. Do that. I'm going to sequence, and I want people to be in Atlanta. Go, because I guess that's headquarter. And what I want to do is just, make sure they are in marketing. And here I click on search. And what this is doing is, so I had my message, now I have my sequence, and now I have some people who are really interesting inside of marketing. So I say, okay, I got 21 people. I want to invite this person, maybe this other person, and this person. And then I click on next. And here, that's really a cool thing, is that I'm able to use JSON AI as an assistant for replies. So I'm able to reply to prospects whenever they reply to the email. So the AI will do that for me. So what I can do is provide additional context regarding what I'm doing. And here again, I can use the same thing. So, time and date of the event. We are organizing event. Leaders in food and beverage. Time and date, ET, and suited for C-level and executive. And so what it's going to do, it's same thing. Whenever someone is replying and say, hey, when is it happening? It's going to, basically the AI will reply, okay, on this date, like who's organizing that? Okay, it's reply. What type of people do we have here? C-level and executive. And if it, ask a question that you can't answer, then you're going to, the AI won't reply for you. And you're going to be able to really get the message and reply yourself. So it's really helping when you have very basic questions, you can go and click on there. And so here, that's how you would do that. So you click on settings, you can insert your email, your LinkedIn, general settings, reply handling, so you can check all your things, schedule that whenever you send it, and then you launch your sequence. So that's typically how you do that. So you start with the magic sequence. You start, with the prompting, write some messages, then check your sequence, create the sequence. And instead of doing all these things manually, the AI is suggesting you, is helping you to do that. So that's something I really recommend trying. Good. So what I'm going to do now is give you a bunch of homework. So what's really important, once we know these tools, now is to really apply what I showed you. So what we're going to do is, the first thing I want you to do is to use the list of prospects that you generated from the previous session for Morgan. And, you want to use that. And that's going to be the list of prospects you're going to reach out to, or you can build one if you didn't do that. What you're going to do is you're going to duplicate the Notion, the resource guide. So I'm going to send that over here. And when you click on here, you have a small thing. So that says duplicate. And then you're able to duplicate inside of your own workspace. So if you don't have a Notion account, you can create one. It's going to be free, so no problem. And what the first step I want you to do is to go review this video and the slides that I'm going to share, and craft your connection request. So again, you find a template that works for you. You train ChatGPT on how it works, and then you're going to have an idea of the connection request. Step 4 will be to craft a message. So once you have your connection request examples, you want to make sure that you have one message that you can send to your prospects. So make sure you use, for example, the frameworks that I shared over here. They work really well. And then you send your results to me. So I'm going to send over basically my email, and we'll debrief on them with Vlad during the panel. So we have a panel discussion that comes later, and we're going to be able to take, for example, a result of a sequence, just check what are the good things, the bad things, and give you some advice. So really, if you want some pretty much free advice on your sequence, just send them over to me, and I'll be super happy to help with that. So now what I'm going to do is just go in the Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and answer all our questions. So let me find, again, if you have any specific question, just go ahead, ask them. I'll be super happy to answer them. The first one for it would be, do you have any statistics that show that conditions generated with ChatGPT are better than general ones? So not really. Again, that's always the same thing. If you go to ChatGPT and you say, create a connection request for me, what you're going to get is pretty weak results. Let me show you an example. So if I go here and I say, create a connection request on LinkedIn, so here it's telling me a bunch of stuff. And you see this message, I hope this message finds you well. I came across your profile while searching blah, 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 and I was impressed. So I don't know exactly why it's like putting that into a code. It's just, I think it's like, yeah, it's telling me, in different stuff like VBNet. I don't know what that means, but basically it's, writing that as if it were code. So it's not that great. But again, if you show it what a good connection request looks like, you're going to get a lot more replies. So that's really what's important to understand, is that, I don't really have any specific stats, but if you show what, a good connection request is, so something a human would answer to, then you're going to get more replies. So again, always the same format. Ask it to act like a specific job title. Show it what a good trigger is, or a good framework is, with the trigger, teaser, call to action, for example. And then what you're going to do is show an example of what a good framework or conditional request is, and say, okay, now I have XYZ problem, or this is what I'm selling. Now, based on everything I showed you, create the connection request. Okay. So Kunal is saying there's still a lot of manual work to be done. I think something that can scale the personalization with AI, but you need control over the AI to make sure it is saying what you want it to. And here, Kunal, that's a very good topic, or a very good observation on your end, is whenever you are using AI, you need to make sure that you're checking what it's doing. So you cannot just go and ask it to do everything for you, ask it to do your job for you, because what it's going to do is just not do a good job. So again, if you see like the connection request examples that I showed you, like where I asked ChatGPT to build a connection request, was very vague, not that great, so you would not get replies. So what you need to do is to train it like if it was a virtual assistant. So it's just basically a virtual assistant that never sleeps, never works, and doesn't require anything else than a bunch of dollars per month. And so if you don't train it to understand what are the good things, what are the good connection requests that they can send, it's not going to work. So that's really something I really encourage you to understand, is that you can't scale something with AI if you don't train it on what it's something that works really well. So that's really important there. Eric, will you make the slides available after the presentation? Yes, I will send the slides. I will send the connection request. So that's going to help over there. Rudy, sorry, but this is not a process that can be replicated for larger scale email campaigns. Rudy, if you can actually elaborate a bit more about this, that would be really helpful. To talk about this, scale is something that comes when you have the basics, and again, that always comes back to training the AI properly. So if you don't really train the AI and you don't make sure that it knows what a good message is, you won't be able to scale anything, or you're going to scale something that doesn't work. So you can go and say, okay, now create like 1,000 messages, 1,000 different things based on what I'm telling you to do. But what it's going to do is generate some pretty average messages, and you won't get replies. And so for me, what is so important for everyone here to understand is that what you want to do when you're prospecting outbound people, so when you're doing outbound prospecting, people are not expecting your answer. So what you want to do is first get a reply. So that's the first thing you want is your sequence, no matter if it's done by an AI or with an AI, typically with the help of an AI to become more efficient. What you want to do is make sure that you optimize the sequence to getting replies. And once you have a reply, you want to navigate the conversation to actually get an answer. Navigate the conversation and see if there's a qualified person, in front of you, and then book the meeting with the person. So that's what's really important. If we say to train the AI, does it mean that the entire work should always be done in a single chat conversation in ChatGPT? Very good question, Nikolai. That's Nikolai Chuk. That's a very good question. So what you want to do with ChatGPT, there's a few options. So let me just show you an example. There's a few options. You can either create what we call a mega prompt. So let's say you have a prompt directory where you say, okay, act like an SDR manager, whatever, and an SDR, and tell me, and here are like 5 frameworks I want to share with you. So you share the framework, the examples, and then you would like use all that inside of one chat. And basically what's going to happen is that ChatGPT will restart for each chat. So you always have to use the same prompt, the big prompt, to train it on the spot. Another thing you can do is to give it custom instructions. So for example, you want to say, okay, this is what I'm going to use you for, mostly to, help me create messages. And these are the frameworks that I have. And I want you to respond in this way. So you say, okay, now add some headers, for example, format every answer with bullet points, be super precise. So give it custom instructions, and then it can really help you to stop having to train it all the time you are playing with him, like interacting with ChatGPT. So what you want to do is really, really do the training inside of your custom instructions, and then, get the specific answers. What is really a good thing is, you're going to have some really straightforward answer. You can train it really well. But the problem is if you want to use ChatGPT for other things like translating something or, like other specific use case, you won't be able to do it properly because of the custom instructions. So that's why I don't really have them, because I want to make sure that I can, train it every time. So what I'm doing is always using the super prompt, so like big prompts. And for that, you can have a prompt folder where you copy paste, and then you're able to make it easier for you. Good. So thanks for the reply. At the same time, you can waste a lot of time and get nothing, no replies even, if they're highly personalized. That's why I asked for stats that could show if it's worth. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any specific stats, but one tactic I can show you, that is not so much related to AI, so much is for personalization at scale. So let me click in here. If I go in here and I find up a post where I get a lot of people commenting. Let me find something good. Looks like today the posts are not, yeah, here we go. So it's a post from Ryan Walsh. And so, for example, if you talk, if you sell to, I don't know, HR directors, what you want to do is find people who are, influencers or people who are thought leaders into the HR world. And these people will talk about maybe specific problems about of HR directors. So if you have an HR director that has problems with the screening calls, and someone is talking about how you run screening calls or specifically how you do some recruitment online, they're going to talk about this. And if they have a good audience, they're going to have a really good engagement on their post. And for example, they talk about a specific post where they say, okay, these are 5 questions you should ask in every screening call. Take it from 30 minutes to 5 minutes. So they do that. They have 300 likes. What you can do is find all the people who like this, the specific post, and then you look at all the people who fit with your ICP. And if you have, let's say, out of these 236 people, you'd have 20 HR directors that fit with the ICP. You could use the connection request I shared with you and say, hey, notice you like the post of Ryan about 5 questions to do your screening calls. If you're interested, I have 5 additional questions to take your screening calls or to, even select candidates before even having your screening call. And when you're doing this, you're doing what we call personalization at scale, because every person will see, okay, there's a specific trigger. So I like this. This person contacted me. They're sending me a message. and it's always the same message for everyone, but each person thinks that you have individually contacted them, and that's a good way to scale. So it's a tactic you can use. And by the way, let me just find my newsletter. I'm sharing a lot of these tactics inside of my newsletter, so I can, put it there. And yeah, I'll put it in the private chat so people can see it, because I can't seem to be sharing these. So that's an example of how you can do this. Yeah, Mikhailo Lukic, and should your connection message can be connected with that activity? So that's an example I gave you here. Yes, what you want to do is your connection request always to be specific to a trigger. So you want to show that you've done your research and that you know that your prospects, the problems your prospects are facing, so they actually are more inclined to replying to you. So Kunal here is saying stats are dependent on what you sell. You can show an example of a free offer that gets more response than a paid offer. So Kunal, can you just tell me a bit more about what you mean there while I'm replying to another answer? So Jack, is there an AI tool that can scrape a LinkedIn profile or company website to help with the prospect message? And does that integrate with ChatGPT? Does Human Leaker do this? So it's more three questions in one, but basically I know there's a tool called Cargo. Get Cargo. So with Cargo, you can basically do a lot of really interesting stuff. You can scrape data. You can do like some how you call that, some you can do some sequence. You can do plenty of different things, but it's really one system where you can integrate everything, and you can typically scrape data. So I'm going to share this link again with everyone. So that's another one you can do. Human Linker doesn't do all these things at scale, but as I know the founder, I'm going to tell him that's maybe something that's interesting. And again, here, you don't really want stuff, or you don't really need stuff that integrates with ChatGPT, because what it does, ChatGPT, or like most tools that use AI, they directly connect with ChatGPT through its API. So they have like a bridge basically between ChatGPT. And so the way it works is quite simple. So instead of writing a message where you say, okay, I'm going to write a message and it stays inside of the app, you basically are communicating with ChatGPT through the API inside of the app. So if we take reply.io, for example, I click here. When I do my magic sequence from Magic, I click on JSON AI. Here, what I'm doing in reality is I am talking to ChatGPT through JSON AI through reply. But on top of this, there's a layer of training that Reply has been doing that tells, so I'm chatting to ChatGPT, it's sending back the answer to Reply, and then Reply adds a layer of knowledge about sales training, about sales prospecting and all sequencing, messaging, and all these things, and then it comes back with an answer. So you don't really need to have something integrated, because most tools that are using AI use ChatGPT for that. So Kunal, let's take your question again. Stats are dependent on what you sell. You can show an example of a free offer that gets more response than a paid offer. It was in response to ask for stats. You cannot compare stats of a different campaign and expect the same results. It'll come down to you offering along with your messaging. That's really true. So that's hard to find some stats for everyone, and that's obviously depending on the what you're offering. And yeah, that's a really good topic on that. So Jack, thank you. The most time-consuming part of personalization is finding a trigger for outreach. If that works, can be done for us and script some of this information, would save a lot of money. Yes, so Jack, just go and check Get Cargo, and maybe you're gonna find something cool. And yeah, good. So I guess we have a lot of replies. So if you have some more, questions, send them over. And while we're there, Olivia, if you want to come back to the stage.
Sure.
I was fast.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Hope you enjoyed that. And make sure to try the sales engagement tips, AI tips that Thibaut has shared today. So, Thibaut, it's time to pick up the best question.
Yeah, let me find that. Mm.
And while Tibor is selecting the winner, I want to remind you, please join LinkedIn group for discussion, for experience sharing, and you will receive your home assignment, the second home assignment shortly today. And also, please share your feedback on social regarding the workshop and whole Sales AI Marathon. Tag Reply.io, use hashtag Sales AI Marathon, and at the end of the event, you will be able to receive the gifts from us, Amazon gift cards.
Good. So there's a question actually I didn't reply to, which was one of the first one from Studio Fest, which I really like. So I'm going to select this one and reply to it when we're there. So the question was, how can we scale personalized outreach and what is enough personalization? What is enough personalization and how can this be done at scale for a service that clients use a lot as a one-off? So I like this question because it's a bit more complex. There's different questions inside of there, but basically what I showed you as a tactic for personalized outreach. So what's really important is to understand that people are tired of receiving, and Olivia, you're a CMO, so I'm sure you receive tons of cold outreach every day. And people are tired of receiving the same approach, the same messages, and or different types of stuff that show that you didn't do your research. So if I go, Olivia, and want to reach out to you, there's so much you're giving us by posting. So you're posting a lot of stuff. There's posts that you're doing that I can use, and I can say, oh, I found that you've done this. Curious to know how you're preventing that. So the personalization is something where instead of using tools directly and scaling like crazy to find that, when people raise money, you can contact them and mention that. You want to be able to find what is a good personalization element. And so there are different ways to do that, but often it's just looking at the activity, what I call the digital footprint, and then having an idea of what a good trigger is. And one very simple tip is when you can't find something that is really relevant, what you do is use a framework that I shared where you ask trigger, teaser, call to action, and you end up with a PS. So what you're doing is you're asking questions, you're saying, hey, how do you avoid this problem without a trigger? And at the end you say, PS, I saw you had like I loved your smiley t-shirt on whatever thing post you've done, and that shows at the end of the message that you've done your research. So that's something like that. And how can you can scale for a service the client use as a lot as a one-off. So whenever you're selling a one-off project or service, what you want to do is make sure you have a big total addressable market. So use the same outreach strategy for stuff that is repeating business, or instead of one-off. So you want to really make sure that when you're just selling one-off projects, you want to make sure you have a lot of people, but that's the same tactics basically.
This is great advice. From my side, I can say that we have a series of reply research that we did. We analyzed emails that were sent from reply platforms, so we know what is the best structure for the subject line. What are the stats for personalization? And when I'm talking about personalization, I'm referring to different things like variables, like personalized pictures and stuff like that. We will share this information additionally to the LinkedIn group, so please check it out. The winner, so our marketing team will reach out to you and just talk about the address to send the gifts to. And finally, thanks again, everyone, for your time today, and we will see you in a week.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Olivia, for having me. That was great.
Thank you, Thibault. Bye.